Good morning and welcome to the regular meeting of the HART Board. Will everyone please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? Pledge of allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Before we approve the minutes, I have two pieces of correspondence I need to read into the record. One is from Mr. Melendez. It says, as a follow-up to the verbal notice, I cannot attend the board meeting today. Offer the following so it may be read at the meeting, preferably by the chair or the vice chair in his absence. It says, fellow board members, staff, and public, I send my regrets. I could not attend today as I have been unavoidable work conflict. While I could not attend, I'm writing to give a warm welcome to our new CEO, Ben. It's my understanding you had a great first week, hitting the ground running with several meetings engaging both the public and HART team members. I'm pleased to see you off to such a strong start, and I'm excited about what's to come. See you soon. That's from John Melendez. The other one is from Ms. Shanahan. Said, I had to travel for Mom's health. Sorry to miss, but it came up yesterday, so she's not in attendance either. So I just want to read those into the record. We have the minutes from our March 4th, 2019 meeting. We have a motion to approve those minutes.
Motion to approve. Second.
There's a motion by Mr. Harden, second by Ms. Williams to approve the minutes of the March 4th, 2019 meeting. See no further discussion. All those in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed likewise. Motion is adopted. Now I'll get into recognitions. To my right, I understand he came in last week and got up 2 o'clock in the morning, something like that, right?
Yeah, roughly. Yeah.
To start his work on visiting different parts of this county and the employees of HART. So we want to welcome our new CEO. He started, what was your first, 25th, 27th, yes. 25th of March, Mr. Limmer. And Mr. Limmer, welcome aboard. We're glad to have you here.
All right. Good morning, Mr. Chair, HART board members, staff, and guests. You know, it's a monumental day for us. It's my first board meeting. Before we get started, I did want to share just a few highlights of my first day and first week. Yes, my first day did start very early at 5 a.m. in the operations and maintenance facility. Met a lot of wonderful folks. Did a 9 a.m. listening session out there at the maintenance facility. Did an early morning media activity at the Marion Transit Center. And then I concluded the day with a 5 p.m. Customer listening session, which was standing room only, and there will certainly be more of those to come. Throughout the week, I met with various stakeholders, federal, state, local, and regional officials. I held lots of briefings with board members, executive staff, and of course went to community events and activities as a representative of HART. I concluded the week with riding several bus routes throughout our wonderful system, and I also visited the 21st Avenue facility, and yes, I did get just a tad bit of sleep. So there will be more to come. As I share with many employees and customers, you know, I was really on a listening tour, listening to many great ideas, suggestions, and opportunities for advancement into the future. And I look forward to working side by side with each of you, our board, to ensure our customers and stakeholders throughout the county are fully satisfied. Again, thank you for the opportunity to be here with you.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it very much, and we look forward to working with you as we mold this agency in the best it possibly can be. So we look forward to working. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next, we have a memoriam for ADA committee member, the late Becky Farcell. Those of you who knew her, and if you did not know her, we lost a jewel. We lost someone that cared about those with disabilities to the utmost. She always would come before the county commission and bring joy to each and every one of us that was there. She's going to be missed, truly, truly missed. So we want to pay tribute to her this morning. Good morning.
Good morning. Ruthie Reyes Burkhardt, Chief Operating Officer for HART. I would like to ask Craig Forcell, the husband of Ms. Becky Forcell, to join me at the podium, and board members of Yes of America to stand if they would. I just want to thank you for being here today, and I'd like to present you with this plaque in memory of Becky for her advocacy and transportation for people with disabilities. Ms. Forcell, or Becky, as we all knew her, was one of the original members of the ADA task force here at HART and a member of the ADA Accessibility Committee, which led to the most recent bus stop study many years ago and the setting of our HART bus stop standards. Becky's help and input in creating HART Plus, as we know it today, as a writer and as a consultant to us, began in March of 2000 and helped shape the HART Plus service for other HART patrons with disabilities. While her vigorous spirit was often challenging, that persistence also helped HART to grow with understanding and to serve the community better. In addition to her work with HART in Hillsborough County and advocacy at the state level, she also launched the annual fair, the Family Abilities with Information Rally, now in its 11th year, and which HART supported throughout the years. And we just want to thank you for supporting her and joining us throughout the years here at HART. And if you'd like to make a comment at this time, I will present you with this.
Thank you.
I pick it up for you right here.
Very nice.
Do you want to
All right. I have further than here it is. All right. Well, thank you, all board members. I know Becky's transportation was near and dear to her heart, along with many other things, but transportation was big time. So I'd encourage you to always search out someone who is very keenly aware of issues of people with disabilities or is themselves has a disability to come and talk to you guys, because the most well-meaning thing in the world can go awry if you don't have someone who's lived it, walked it, and wrote it. Continue to do your great work. Becky was very happy with the progress you were making. I'm going to lose it. So thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. We appreciate you to the utmost. Thank you very much. Before we move into the employee recognitions, Constable Suarez, is this your last meeting?
It is.
We don't have a crystal bus for him? Don't we have those crystal buses?
If you get some Tiffany crystal, that'd be great.
Come back then.
Well,
if that's okay, I'll come back. That's all right.
yeah, you have to come back and get it, but we want to, I thought this would be your last meeting, but we want to thank you for your service for all these years of not only in our heart, but for City Council. You worked hard to make the city the best it possibly can be, so we want to thank you so very, very much, and we're going to miss you on this board.
I thank you, Chair. I've been on this board now almost 8 years. Next month would be 8 years. Obviously, I'm not going to be serving on this board in my current capacity. The current mayor, I want to thank Bob Buckhorn for appointing me every year. Even when we had some issues that we disagreed with each other, he never took it out on me personally and allowed me to continue to serve on this board. It's been a great pleasure for me personally. Obviously serving the people on City Council has been terrific. But getting to be on this board for as long as I have and getting to know all of our board members, and we've had, except for myself, the three chairs that we have had, Miss Davin and Miss Hewitt, and then of course you, sir. You've been a great chair. I really appreciate everything you've done for us and for the board. I want to thank all of you. I know that this is not an easy board to be on sometimes. We do get hit, whether it's from the editorial board or from our regular newspaper reporters, but this is a great organization. And the people that serve this organization, regardless of what position you're in, and I'm glad we're doing employee recognitions today, just on my last day, you all work hard and you try your best to make sure that the customer is served. That's the most important thing. Sometimes people that write about us forget that we're trying to serve people. We're not trying to serve a particular type of transportation, a particular type of or part of the county. We're trying to serve everybody. And getting consensus can be hard sometimes. I've enjoyed every minute of it. I appreciate it. And And welcome, Mr. Limmer. Obviously, this must be good luck for you. I mean, your first meeting is my last meeting. So I had a list of incredibly hard questions to ask you this morning, and I'll have to wait until next month, I guess. So thank you for being here and being on board. I think you're going to do a great job. It's going to be a much bigger agency, and we have to be prepared for that. And I think that all of you know that, and I hope that all of you are up to the task. I wish I would be here with you. Maybe someday in the future I might be back on, but I'm not sure I can see that future right now. So thank you all again. Thank you very much for your indulgence of my questions and sometimes my really bad jokes. But I appreciate all of you, and this is a good agency that can become an even better agency. Thanks. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councilman Suarez. Staff, did I jump the... Did I jump the gun on something? I don't know if this was supposed to be next meeting, but I felt it was necessary because he was here. So if I did jump the gun,
they have a whole box of these things out there.
You know, it may have been that it was supposed to be next meeting, but I did it this meeting. So take me to the woodshed later on, okay? So we're going to get this to Councilman Suarez this morning.
Sure.
Councilman Suarez? Yes.
Yes, sir. All right.
First one you give out.
Jump the gun. This is last meeting, so I don't want to bring him back.
Right.
And thank you, Chair. You know what? This is not why we work for it, but it's a pretty nice little box, I got to tell you.
Thank you. Employee recognitions. Who's handling that?
Good morning, members of the board, members of the audience, guests and staff. I'm happy to introduce 5 of the best, brightest, and most dependable staff in the operations team. Truly, they are the backbone of HART that makes us run and move people to and fro every single day. As I call out your name, please stand up and be recognized. I'm going to start with the Customer Service Employee of the Quarter from October to December 2018. Please help us recognize Iris Acosta. He's not here. Well, let's go to the next person. The Operator of the Month for December 2018, Faye Hatcher. The Operator of the Month for January 2019, Muhammad Darby. The Operator of the Month for February 2019, Oscar Matute. And last but not least, for the operations team is the non-bargaining employee of the quarter from October 18 to December 2018 with over 30 years of service. Our administrative assistant in operations, Mona Caravan. And next is our Chief of Maintenance, who's going to recognize the maintenance team.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, good morning. Scott Draper, Chief of Maintenance and Facilities. I would like to ask the following maintenance employees to please stand once can be recognized. For the Teamster Employee of the Quarter, from October to December of 2018, E.J. Sanachara. Maintenance Employee of the Month for December of 2018, Manuel Valdez. For Employee of the Month for January of 2019, Steve Carson. And for Employee of the Month for February 2018, David Hepburn. thank all of them for their hard work and dedication.
Mr. Chair, could we get you to come stand in the middle, please?
Oh, why?
So for public comments on agenda items, there is only one person. The rest will be in the end of the meeting. Kevin O'Hare.
Thank you. Let me say congratulations to each and every one of you. It's because of you and all the hard work that you do in the many years you've been in this agency, it makes it what it is today. Even though the constraints that we've been dealing with through the years, we've always worked very hard to make it the best it possibly can be, and that is serving our customers. So we want to thank you so very, very much for all of your hard work. We're now moving to public input on agenda items. We have one person that's on the agenda item, and that's Kevin O'Hare. Good morning.
Hi, good morning. Kevin O'Hare, 4931 Copper Canyon Boulevard, Florida. Here on behalf of All for Transportation. First off, just want to give a shout out to Ben Limmer. Happy first day, congratulations. We're really looking forward to working with you as we move forward into the agenda item for today, which is the approval of the interlocal agreement. This is the first step in making sure we're implementing the will of the voters. This past November, the All for Transportation movement passed with 58% of the vote. This is an exciting first step. We're really looking forward to seeing all of the partner agencies coming together, working with the IOC to have their projects approved and have the will of the voters be fully implemented. So thank you.
Thank you, sir. Okay. We're now moving to action items. Resolution 2019-04-10, approve the interlocal agreement regarding transportation sales surtax. Mr. Smith, you recognize.
Yes, good morning. I'd preface this by indicating I will have to leave early. We have a deposition of Tyler Hudson that is beginning quickly, and so I'll do all my material up front, and so I'd like to update you on some things as well. But the first item of business is the interlocal. As you know, this is pursuant to the Florida Statute 212-055. It is a process that is engaged by communities, elected governments to address how they're going to manage common events. What we did when we were drafting this, it involved the city attorney for Tampa, for Temple Terrace, for Plant City, county attorney, Representative Sam Hamilton. I was there on behalf of HART. Dale Bonner was there on behalf of the clerk. When you get that many lawyers working on one document, it sometimes gets a little bit harried. But we did come out with a document that met our objectives. The objectives were, number one, to be consistent with 212-055, because as you know, we're in litigation. Secondly, to be consistent with Article 11, Amendment 11, which is the transit surtax that was approved by the voters. We've accomplished that. There's a couple of things in here that are a little bit unique in the sense that they were unaddressed in either the statute or Amendment 11. One of those is the fact that there was no appellate route. When the IOC made a decision, if someone chose to appeal that, you had to go to court. You know, local agreement indicates that the first measure of appeal is going to be the BOCC. We think that's appropriate because the BOCC is the overarching body in any event, and that provides an opportunity for an appeal at that route. We tried to protect the requirements and the obligations of the IOC, so we've made as few changes as possible. We tried to fill in some of the gaps. We suggested a certificate of submission process that we think will work well, either with an engineer certification when it is an engineered project, or a procurement professional when it's a procurement issue, such as the acquisition of buses. You don't need engineers to tell you buses are used in transit. it would be a procurement issue. So those are a few of the nuances and the additions to the agreement. Otherwise, it pretty much tries to track 212.055 and Article 11. I'm happy to answer any questions if you should have any.
Any questions, Mr. Smith? Any questions? Seeing none, what's your pleasure?
I'll move approval.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Mechanic, second by Commissioner Kemp to approve the approval of the interlocal agreement. Seeing no further discussion, all those in favor, let them know by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, likewise. Motion is adopted. Resolution 2019-0411. Mr. Seward. Oh, I'm sorry, not Mr. Seward.
Good morning, Sylvia Barron on behalf of HART, Deputy Attorney. This is an action item to authorize the CEO to modify a contract for general counsel services to increase the not to exceed amount to $630,000. This increase will provide an additional $75,000 for litigated related services for the surtax, including the bond validation proceeding that's ongoing and any other lawsuits that may be filed related to the surtax litigation, and authorize our general counsel, Ray Robinson, to continue with those litigation services. As you know, we general counsel the board authorized general counsel back in May a 5-year contract for a 3-year base and 2 1-year options, which was for $480,000. So this additional services will allow them to continue with that since the cases are continuing, and there is no monthly restriction on that.
Are there any questions?
No.
Any questions? Is there a motion?
Move to approve.
Motion by Commissioner Kemp, second by Commissioner Overman. Seeing no further discussion, all those in favor, let them know by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, likewise. Motion is adopted. Let me revert back to Mr. Smith. I think he has some other things he wanted to say.
Yes, I wanted to provide my counsel's report now, and then I'll head out to the deposition. Essentially, I wanted to update you on the litigation. You have read much about it in the newspaper. Essentially, what happened was the complaint that was filed by Commissioner White was dismissed with leave to amend. It was found by the judge that he did not have standing to bring the action in his official capacity as a county commissioner. He has nonetheless filed an amended complaint, and our answers are due today, so I had a wonderful weekend preparing that response. It kind of eludes me why he's doing that, but I guess he'll take care of that explanation. He has standing in the bond validation. There's no question about it. He can raise all the issues in the bond validation that he can raise in a separate litigation. So it kind of eludes all of us with respect to why he's going that route. We hope it's not in order to just unnecessarily delay by creating a second avenue of appeal, because the bond validation, as you know, is appealed directly to the Florida Supreme Court, and perhaps this other litigation is a way to route it through the second DCA and protract the process. I hope not. That's not the way they've represented themselves so far. We are in the middle of the deposition of Commissioner White. This is the second iteration, and we still have to have another go at it because we don't have all the documents from the county that are part of the questions we want to ask. The deposition has been transcribed. If anybody wants to see it or has any questions about what it says, I'd be happy to fill you in. I don't think we need to take that time today. But if there's any questions on the status of the litigation, let me know. As you know, we have motions that we've heard. You've heard the result of those. We have answers for filing today. Motions for summary judgment are due on Friday, and the hearing is going to be May 3rd. So we hope to have a result as soon as the court rules after that. The court has made not only the entire day Friday available, they moved it from 1:30 to 9:30. The court also said he's available Saturday if necessary. So we're really getting a responsive judiciary trying to address this issue and come out to a resolution. So we're pleased with the way everything has been going so far.
Chair, if I could just ask one quick question.
Yes, you recognize.
So the standing for Commissioner White is as a private citizen for the bond hearing also?
He does have clear standing for the bond hearing because you have to be either a citizen,
right,
a resident, or a property owner, and he meets all three.
And but he is not on that particular case as a county commissioner either, though, correct?
He is not as a
Okay.
county commissioner in either case.
I just wanted to know where my tax dollars are going to.
Just as an individual.
Okay.
Any other questions of Mr. Smith? Anything else, Mr. Smith?
No, sir.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay. We're now moving to presentations, the Paratransit Service Review. Mr. Browning, good morning.
Good morning. Is that better? Thank you so much for having me today. My name is Christopher Browning, and I am with Transpro Consulting. Despite what the agenda might say, I am not the CEO of Transpro Consulting, although I appreciate the promotion. Back in August, HART asked us to come in and do a review of the paratransit operations. And so what we did as a part of that, the objective is to look at compliance for the ADA operations compared to the FTA requirements that are set forward. And y'all can read this. I'm not going to read line by line on these slides because I don't think it's that important. Y'all can read through that. So just to talk about our methodology, we did an informal, information on-site review with data. We met with staff. We did a site visit, and then we did the actual compliance review after we gathered all the initial data and then had the site visit. So some of the initial information that we pulled, we looked at the rider's guide, the eligibility application, the FTA report compliance review from 2015, as well as the 2018 triennial review draft report. And one of the issues that HART previously had challenges with was the on-time performance that had been remedied since that FTA review. During the site visit, we met with multiple staff, Director of Operations Support, Manager of Customer Service and Paratransit, and then Paratransit and Operations staff members. The interview topics included eligibility determination, ride scheduling, trip times, on-time performance, service areas, fare structure, training, and things of that nature. So when we look at the compliance review portion, we use the FTA circular 4710.1 as the regulation standard. So the circular summarizes into a single document the elements of 49 CFR parts 27, 37, and 38 that are relevant to public transportation. Chapters 8 and 9 specifically of that circular reference the federal requirements for paratransit service and eligibility. So the point of this was to make sure that the board understands that we did not come in and just say, well, we think they're doing it great in these areas. We use the FTA circular as the objective standard. So this is not our opinion. This is our understanding based on how it's displayed in the circular compared to how the paratransit operations are running based on the data. So from the results perspective, there were 37 ADA requirements identified in the circular 4710.1. As you can see, 32 were in compliance, 4 were not applicable, and 1 was not in compliance. And here's the list of all of those ADA requirement areas, and the light blue shading there are those that were not applicable, and the one in yellow is the one, no substantial numbers of untimely pickups, that was not in compliance at the time of the review. So as we look at this, we dove into the one area that was not in compliance at the time. HART staff was already aware and already beginning to make changes based on the fact that they knew this was going to be an issue. We wanted to make sure that we highlight one thing here. You can see in the left-hand chart the trip pickup on-time performance is at 86%, whereas the drop-off time is at 100%. So I think it's important to understand that while HART has a much better drop-off on-time percentage, the FTA only views the requirement only speaks to the untimely pickups, not the drop-off times. So again, there's a balance there that HART understands that while yes, we want to make sure we're hitting the mark on the FTA requirement, we're also hitting our customers where they want to be on time. So it's balancing that. And just as a look back to the FTA report in 2015, on-time performance was at 72%, and when we did this audit, it was at 86%. So there was already a drastic increase from 72% in 2015 to 86% in 2018. So as we look forward to efficiency opportunities, again, we only looked at all 32 of those areas, but we focused on the one area that was out of compliance. There are other areas that you'll see in the next couple slides that talk about areas in general where HART could improve efficiencies. Increased use of subscription rides to make sure that rides are scheduled, so it's less on demand for customers to, or for more efficiencies as far as scheduling and routing, that type of thing. Increased use of fixed route service by paratransit customers that are eligible for that service. Again, with the higher cost of paratransit services, for those that are able to use a fixed route is a more cost-effective measure for HART. Streamlining the eligibility recertification process. This allows customer and staff time to be dedicated to customer need in both the completion and the processing side. Making sure that the folks who truly need the service are the ones that are eligible and the ones that are using the service, as opposed to those who are able to ride the fixed service but are using the paratransit service. And with that wraps up the paratransit audit presentation.
Thanks, sir. Questions, Mr. Mechanic, to recognize.
Yes, sir. The late pickups, I guess at 14%. Did you break down the reasons by frequency of the reason in terms of what was the cause of the late pickup?
No, sir, we didn't, but we can definitely go back and look and see if there's a trend associated with that.
Yeah, I mean, I think we would want to know that so we can focus in on what we need to do to improve on that.
Okay. Mr. McClain, you recognize.
Yeah, and just for clarification, how are you defining late pickup in terms of time, and what is the time?
It's within the 30-minute window.
So is that 30-minute window?
It's within that 30-minute window, yes, sir.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions or comments? Is this a report we have to receive, staff? That's $15. Is there a report do we have to receive this report at all, or just this information? Okay.
Yeah,
all right.
It's just
Information. Okay. All right. Thank you, Mr. Brown. You still on board?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We are also happy today to present the results of 2 sets of customer satisfaction surveys, one for fixed route and one for paratransit. They were completed late last year, and we'll start with the fixed route. So we completed 452 surveys in late October. The NPS, we'll talk about what NPS is in just a couple minutes. It was at 38%, 19% higher than the industry sample of 32%. The most important factors for your customers were on-time performance and route coverage. Least important, or not least important, excuse me, areas they were most satisfied in were feeling safe while riding the bus, ease of gathering information, and the buses operating on the days that customers need them. Customers are least satisfied with the cleanliness of bus shelters and the cleanliness of buses. So a little bit of demographic information. The age of your customers in this wave increased a little bit. You'll see in wave 5, it was interesting that the number of 18 to 29-year-olds was upwards of 50+%. In this wave, it was much closer to the average of 31%. So as we look at this, we see there may have been for whatever reason, when we completed wave 5, there may have been a higher number of younger folks, customers riding the buses. So that's just something to consider as you look at these numbers and as we move forward during the presentation. So the frequency of bus use. Your ridership 5 days a week also increased to much more average level of where things were as opposed to wave 5. But most of your customers, as you can see, 2/3 of your customers are riding the bus at least 5 days a week. And we thought this was interesting. This was a new question that we asked in Wave 6, is that 60% of your customers use the One Bus Away Tampa app as their primary source of information for HART. So let's talk about the Net Promoter Score. The Net Promoter Score poses the ultimate question. It allows us to measure against the Costco's of the world, the Disney's of the world, and how we relate to other organizations. So the way we do that is we ask a customer, how likely would you be to recommend HART to a friend or neighbor? And anyone that rates a 9 or a 10, they're what we call promoters. Anyone who rates as a 0 to a 6, they're what we call detractors. And anyone is 7 or 8, they're passives, they're in the middle, and we kind of more or less, we don't disregard those folks, but those folks they're just riding the service. So what we do is we take your promoters, we subtract your detractors, and that's how we come up with your NPS score. And what this allows us to do is provide a real-time look at what your customers think of your service compared to other agencies. So in Wave 6, you had an NPS of 38, and as you can see, the number of promoters dropped slightly, and your detractors ticked up just a hair from Wave, or your detractors jumped quite a bit actually from Wave 3, 4, and 5. And if you look at this from a longitudinal perspective, you see that there are, in Wave 5, the NPS was 65%, and in Wave 6, you're at 38%. So it came back down to that industry sample average, closer to 32. However, we may look at this and say, well, what were the factors that were happening, not just in Wave 6, but also in Wave 5 that may have caused that Wave 5 NPS score to jump so high?
Do we have that? Do we know what it was?
We're not 100% sure, Mr. Chair, but I think if you look at some of the results, it could have been a younger, one of the things that we have talked about is it could have been the younger population that was riding or that took the survey in Wave 5 with I think you're about north of 50% of your ridership was between the ages of 18 and 29 in Wave 5, and that number came back down to the average in Wave 6. And you'll see the numbers throughout the presentation, for the most part, average back out to the pre-Wave 5 levels.
Commissioner Woodman, you recognize.
Thank you for your comments. I'm curious if Wave 5 was in the year with which we implemented the MAX program.
Yes.
And changed our routes and had a significant amount of change in that year.
Wave 5 was in April of 2018. So it was April 2018, and then Wave 6 was in October of 2018.
Okay, so it does appear as though that Mission Max may have had an impact on those individuals that had coverage routes that were no longer coverage.
Right.
Thank you.
Ms. Williams, recognized.
I'm not sure. Did you add? Do you know when the waves took place? Wave 1, Wave 2, Wave 3, 4. Because I'm looking at Wave 6 and Wave 4, and I'm just wondering if it's historical or cyclical, or is there some type of trend? So just wanted to understand the period of time.
Yes, ma'am. I don't have the dates of Waves 1 and 2 in front of me, but Wave 3 was in September of 2016, and Wave 4 was in January of 2017, and Wave 5 was in April of 18, and then this Wave 6 was in October of 18. So there is some cyclical nature to it. Generally, we do a spring and a fall, or a spring and a winter. You'll see that the dates aren't quite that consistent. So, you're timing-wise, you're looking really at Wave 3 compared to Wave 6 as far as your seasonality pieces. And then, January and April, those aren't exactly the same for Waves 4 and 5, but they're, close from that perspective. Again, you're still, the key is we're still capturing your university audience because we're doing these surveys during the semester.
Thank you.
Commissioner Kemp, you recognize.
I'd just like to suggest, because of the difficulty of following this way, that the dates be put on here instead, spring, fall, whatever with the year, rather than, and the wave can be put underneath it or something, so we can really follow it.
we talk about what the most important factors are for customers, it is clearly buses arriving on time, followed by route coverage, travel time, and service availability, and then from there it kind of drops off a little bit. So those are the pieces we'll focus on today as we talk through this. So satisfaction with timeliness, as you can see, it dropped a little bit from wave 5 into wave 6, a 23% decrease. And the acceptable wait time that customers indicate, almost 80% say 5 minutes or less is how quickly the bus should be there if it's not running on time. So as we think about the availability, 82 and 86% of your buses believe that, or customers believe that buses operate at the times that they need them, and then 86% are saying that they operate on the days that they need them. And we split that out from previous waves, as you can see, because we want to make sure we're understanding the differences between the days and the times, because those are critical as staff begins to think about what future service may look like, so that we understand, do we need more service hours or by time, or do we need a more expansion of days? And as you see, the convenience, when buses are available, did drop slightly for frequency, but the convenience of location increased ever so slightly over wave 5. So travel time, again, this was also one of the important factors for customers, and it dropped slightly from wave 5, and transferring to another bus increased. As far as being simple, safe, and timely, increased from wave 5 to wave 6. It's very interesting to us that about 75+% of your customers have to make at least 2 transfers to get to their destination. So that will affect your travel time, as indicated of the 76% on the chart on the left-hand side. On the cleanliness side, just 49% of your customers are satisfied with bus shelters being clean. I know that was something that came up during the customer town hall, so this is not a new thing, and you can see that wave 5 was a little bit high for that, and wave 6 it comes much more in line with where it should be. So I know that the staff is looking into that issue and how those shelters can be maintained so customers are more satisfied. From the customer service perspective, interactions with customer service representatives, customers are very happy. 81%, 82%. So again, that's where we see that they're very much in line with previous waves. And as we look at the last piece for fixed route, we look at the overall satisfaction. And on the chart on the left-hand side, you see that there is a large jump in the number of customers that are satisfied as opposed to very satisfied with the service. Now, we don't necessarily understand why that shift was there, but the important thing is that your customers are still satisfied with your service. So if you combine those up, you get 75% of your customers are still satisfied or very satisfied with your service. The other interesting thing is that your service quality over the past year has increased. If you look at the gotten better on the left-hand side of that chart, it increased significantly over wave 5. So as we think about the dynamics of the responses, even though your overall satisfaction may have dropped slightly from very satisfied to satisfied, the service, we asked it in a different way to make sure customers are answering the same, or they're being consistent in their answers, and they're saying the service did get better as opposed to staying the same. Any questions about fixed route?
I actually have one quick.
Commissioner Smith, you recognize.
Yeah, thank you. So we're surveying our customers, and I would think anybody who is terribly dissatisfied may no longer be a customer. I wonder how we can survey people who might be prospective customers about why they are or are not customers.
Sure. Mr. Chair?
Yes.
So with that would be more along the lines of some type of probably community security survey.
Mhm.
We specifically go on the buses to survey, to make sure we're surveying customers. You're 100% right that there may be people who are not riding now that have ridden previously, or in situations where a service is reduced in a certain area, those people are no longer on the buses. We understand that. The purpose of this survey is to survey those that are on the buses. And we do that by, we don't allow customers to walk up to us to take the survey. We don't put it online. We go on the buses, and every fourth person that steps in the bus, we say, would you like to take a survey? So where it's a random sample, so that fourth person, that's who we actually talk to. It's not a, we're just going to sit there and wait for you to come ask us questions.
Thank you.
Commissioner Overman, you recognize.
Thank you. The one thing that is pretty interesting, while I do see that we have a lot of folks that believe that our services have gotten better or stayed the same, there's a pretty significant increase of those that are of the opinion that it got worse in wave 5 and 6. Are those responses in terms of any details that were offered available to staff so that we can identify areas that we can improve?
So we, Mr. Chair, we did not pull those responses out, but we can definitely do that and make sure we understand for the folks that responded, that 20% of folks that responded that the service gotten worse, what other areas that they were dissatisfied in, or satisfied for that matter, to see if there's a correlation there. Maybe they are so strongly dissatisfied with the shelter cleanliness that they also said it's gotten worse. But I think we can definitely look at that information, and I believe it could have an impact on the mission max of when that was implemented. That could be a carryover to that.
Exactly. Thank you.
Ms. Williams, you recognize.
Thank you. Quick question on the type of survey that was completed. Was that a voice or survey, just live conversation, or was that via iPad? Or?
Yes, ma'am. We use a survey tool with an iPad. So we have a surveyor on the bus who invites a customer to take the survey, and then we fill the survey out and it's submitted, and then we pull all the data on that.
Okay. And ma'am, are we drawing conclusions based on this data, or do we provide an opportunity for detractors and the promoters to provide a comment box, or to gain information and input the information if they want to tell us themselves?
No, ma'am. Right now, there is not an opportunity for open comment.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Kemp, you recognize.
Thank you. How many surveys are done?
542 in this wave.
And are they done every time on every bus route?
Yes, ma'am. We take your ridership and do a statistical analysis, or it's a statistical valid sample of your ridership as a whole.
I would agree with the point raised by Director Williams. I always think every survey loses an opportunity if it doesn't have an open comment area. Opportunity, as long as we're doing it to learn something we haven't. And so I'd really like to see that as well added to it. I also think Commissioner Overman's points about figuring out where, because it could be that most of the dissatisfaction comes from, and again, we're only doing these with people, as Commissioner Smith says, who uses our service, and so we're missing that area, as we know, just by virtue of this. But also, in terms of the 20% could be from 3 different routes and not be the other routes, and so that would be really significant and important to, I think, to be able to identify, to really use this tool in the best way and survey in the best way that we can, is to be able to understand if that's broadly true or true just for some routes.
See no further questions? Mr. White.
Again, thanks for the info. I wanted to know, like say new residents or locals, do you have an idea of some of the one that you asking or that doing this survey, do you have an idea, is it just local or new people? taking advantage of our bus system?
Demographics.
So as part of the survey, we don't have a demographic question that addresses whether they're a new resident or whether they've been here for 20 years or anywhere in between. So we ask some demographic questions. Age, gender, I don't know what the others are, but there's just a couple of generic questions that we'll ask, and then if that's something that you all on staff would like to ask in the future, I think we can definitely accommodate that.
Ms. Williams, recognized.
Are we able to see the survey? Can we get a copy of it?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Is that it, Mr. Brown?
I have paratransit.
Okay.
So as move on to the paratransit customer satisfaction wave 2 results, we conducted 252 phone surveys with customers. 228 of those customers of those interviews were customers. 24 surveys were completed by caretakers on behalf of the customer. Vehicles arriving on time and safety in the vehicle are the most important elements of service to HART Plus customers. And as you can see, mobility devices being secured, customer care representatives, drivers driving safely, and feeling safe while on board the vehicle are all very high satisfaction ratings for customers. Least satisfied areas for customers are the phone being answered promptly and the vehicles arriving on time. So as we look at a couple of demographics real quickly, age of your customer, 78% of your customers are above the age of 50. It's just something to think about as you look at the costs and again, as you look at the results, that's your age bracket for HART Plus. The method of transportation, this question was introduced in wave 2. So 52% of your customers are using the HART Plus vehicle as a primary method of transportation. So as we look at the Net Promoter Score for paratransit, it's 74%. That's a very good, solid NPS score. Again, I want to make sure that we understand that these surveys do not address every individual customer's belief, and this also goes for fixture out. This is a sampling of the system, not individual experiences of the system. So you may have some variances in these. So over the last 2 waves, the NPS dipped just slightly from 76 to 74%, but again, that's still a very high NPS score. So as we compare your paratransit NPS score to others, you're at 74%. 2 other agencies of similar size and region are at 55% and 78%. So you are definitely on the higher end of that. So again, y'all are doing a great job with the paratransit service. So as we look at the customer importance factors, far and away, vehicles arriving on time is most important to your customers, followed by safety in the vehicle, and then everything else after that. So again, as we think about the results of the paratransit audit, when we think about this, customers being picked up on time is very important. But again, we still have an 85% satisfaction rate with being picked up on time within the window, and the travel time of 89% of customers getting to their destination in a reasonable amount of time. Driver customer service is through the roof. So I'm just going to read all these 95, 94+% marks here. And the way we do these questions is we ask drivers are friendly, helpful, and they drive safely as 3 individual questions, and then we ask overall satisfaction of drivers as a separate question to make sure that customers understand how customers are answering, so that we don't just combine and make an average. We ask it separately so that we can see those compared, so that if one is very low, we can try to understand why they believe that everything is 94+%, but let's say overall satisfaction of drivers was at 60. We try to understand why that difference, but this just shows the relationship between the two. From a safety perspective, 96% feel safe when boarding the vehicle, and 94% feel safe while riding the vehicle. And again, that was one of the top importance factors for customers. Again, from the challenges side, customers are least satisfied with calls being answered promptly. So you can see it was a 21% less a drop from wave 1 on satisfaction with calls being answered promptly. So again, that's something that staff is looking into to understand what may have happened during those 2 times to see why the satisfaction dropped. But once they talk to customer service representatives, everything is gold. So 96% and 93% overall. And lastly, we introduced this question in wave 2. What is the overall satisfaction with quality of service? And customers are very satisfied, 91% satisfaction with HART Plus service. Any questions about paratransit?
Any questions? Councilman Swarm is recognized.
Thank you. Why phone interviews in this particular survey as opposed to the way you did the fixed route?
So we actually did in wave 1, we did onboard surveys for paratransit. First of all, it's very expensive, but secondly, we found that when you're asking customers about drivers while they're on the bus, there's a proximity. You and I are talking. We can hear right there. They may not be as willing to be truthful in the survey. So that's the major reason, and we've just found that it's the same thing. We take a random sampling of your customer list, active customer list, and that goes to folks that we call. So again, we do a randomization. We reach out to those individual customers to gather that feedback.
And in terms of the random sampling, why that particular number? I mean, what's the total number of the sample size, and not the sample size, but the total number of riders that then you shrink down to, I think it was 252 or something like that. How's that determined? I know you determined it based on the routes and demographics and some other things, but why that particular number? I mean, how many do we have total that you drew from?
So I don't recall. I'm not sure the full number of the sample size, but it's a sampling of obviously of that.
Yeah.
So we statistically valid, and I think the percentages are on there. But that's how we go about that, because we don't want to sample every person. Just like with your overall ridership at HART, we do fixed route, we do 500 surveys, and it's a statistically valid sample.
Yeah, I was just curious about the number, because there are a lot of riders out there, and we have high satisfaction ratings based on this, and I'm just curious as to what that number is. And Greg, I have a short shelf life, so you might want to get it by the end of the day, okay? But thank you.
Ms. Williams, recognized.
Thank you for the information. It's always good to know what our customers think about our service and to hear it specifically from them. So thank you for gathering the information. I just would like to have some additional context of this data, at the actuals, and maybe Mr. Linimer, this is something that you can provide, give us a frame of reference of what this represents. So is 30 minutes what we deemed appropriate for the arrival time or pickup time, or when the data says 5 minutes? I'm just not clear on the variances there, as well as the call center times and when they answer calls, and what's the average pickup time, handle time, those from that perspective, so we get a better frame of reference of how we're doing and how we can improve specifically and drill down into those areas that are most important from a priority standpoint.
Sure. And just briefly, the 30-minute pickup window on the paratransit side, that's an FTA requirement. So that's where that comes from. When we talk about the 5-minute variance either on either side of that, on the fixed route or the paratransit side, that's just that's a question that we ask to see what customers' preferences are. Because some people may be willing to wait for a bus for 10 minutes, as long as they get to their destination. Others say it has to be here right now, no matter what.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Mr. Brownlee, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Mr. Chairman, excuse me, as you can see, I'm still here because I forgot an item that's important, and I'd like to bring it up. It's a walk-on. Essentially, what we would like to do is get the assistance of bond counsel in the bond litigation proceedings. It'll be limited assistance. primarily dealing with the collateral estoppel effect of the litigation itself. What I'd like to recommend you do, there was a recent procurement done by the Hillsborough County Aviation Authority. It was a full bid procurement, so it has all the protections that we allow or need for what we call piggybacking, which means you basically use the procurement process of another governmental entity as long as that procurement process goes through all the protections necessary. So what I'd like to do, if I could, is have someone make a motion to approve utilization of the full bid procurement process of the Hillsborough County Aviation Authority in order to obtain bond counsel's advice in the pending litigation.
So moved.
Motion by Commissioner Kipps, second by Councilman Suarez and Mr. McLean. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, likewise. Motion is adopted.
Thank you very much.
Okay, CEO report.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm going to start with service changes. As you all know, we make modifications to our bus services 3 times per year. On Sunday, March 24th, HART introduced the first series of bus service modifications for 2019. We made service modifications to 4 routes. One of them was Route 14, and we reverted back to the pre-Mission Max bus stop locations. We also made service modifications to the other 3 routes, specifically the bus stop locations, in order to improve overall on-time performance. Moving on to safety and enhancing the customer experience. HART is actively replacing and installing surveillance camera system. We have completed installation at the Operations Control Center, the Marion Transit Center, the University Area Transit Center, as well as other areas of the operations facility. We are also moving forward with installation of cameras on all revenue vehicles. To ensure that HART customers have access to information on an ongoing basis, starting March 14th, we actually expanded service hours at the Customer Service Center. We are now open 10 hours Monday through Friday and extra 10 hours on weekends and weekdays. The customer service hours are now 5 a.m. to 9 p.m. Monday through Friday, and 6 a.m. to 8 p.m. Saturday and Sunday. HART also received many inquiries about patron safety at a bus stop located at 56th Street in Temple Terrace. To fix this issue, HART identified an alternative site in March, and construction broke ground. The bus phase should be completed within about 3 to 4 weeks, and a Temple Terrace branded shelter is going to be installed at that location. Moving on to an update on the HART fleet. At the September 10, 2018 regular board meeting, the board authorized staff to purchase up to 8 40-foot diesel-powered heavy-duty transit buses from Sarasota County. 2 buses are now in service, and we are eagerly awaiting the delivery of 6 more. HART Plus has received 9 of the 19 new vehicles that were on order, and of the 9 vehicles received, 3 were replacement flex route vehicles. The remaining 10 are expected to be here by the end of April. Moving on to marketing and communications, on April 25th, 2019, HART will conduct what's called Get On Board for Public Transit campaign. This actually replaces the National Dump the Pump campaign in conjunction with the American Public Transportation Association, or APTA, which is oriented towards promoting the increase in support for public transit with riders and non-riders by communicating all of the benefits that public transit can bring to different regions. We are also moving forward with a Wake Up the Streetcar campaign. The Wake Up with the Streetcar campaign is going to be evolving and morphing really into more of a lifestyle campaign. Focus on different ways, whether it's sports, dinings, or nightlife, that customers can use the streetcar. The campaign is going to be implemented through all of our various social media channels, website, internal monitors, and other printed materials such as banners and customer cards. And then HART will celebrate this year's Earth Day, which is April 22nd, with the Earth Day bus wrap called Protect Our Species. It's actually going to have a mural on one of the HART buses. Moving on, negotiations continue with the ATU for a new collective bargaining unit contract. We will obviously provide updates on those activities as they become available. As far as specific projects, the pending autonomous vehicle pilot project, HART staff is going to be visiting the Easy Mile manufacturing site as part of the contract requirement to physically inspect the vehicles before HART receives them. The team will also watch vehicle operations and service, and funding for this trip is provided in full by the vendor, which is First Transit. And then lastly, as a reflection of HART's continuous evaluation and support of partnerships for alternative revenue, HART does have agreements with both Megabus and Red Coach to allow access to the Marion Transit Center for their Tampa to Orlando and Miami service. We have been asked to extend those contracts as they are set to expire in April. HART has actually collected $125,000 in revenue since these contracts went into effect, and we obviously look forward to extending the relationship and non-tax revenue well into the future. Mr. Chair, that concludes my report.
Any questions? Any questions? That's all you've been doing since you've been here?
That's it.
That's it? Okay. Thank you. Very good. Very good. I don't have a report, but I have a question. The NCAA Women's Final Four starts Friday. For those of you who don't follow it, UConn is coming. They're already in the Final Four, and University of Oregon's already in the Final Four. Tonight, the other two games will determine who's going to be in the Final Four. That's Iowa and Baylor, and Stanford and Notre Dame. So a lot of people will be here. Are we doing anything specifically for our visitors that will be coming in? There will be a lot of people here. Is there anything we're doing at all? Out of the ordinary?
I don't know,
I know
Ruthie.
we do have a lot of folks coming.
Yes.
I apologize for not coming up to the podium, but, okay. So traditionally, whenever there are any games, we do run later service on the streetcar to accommodate the games finish at the end of the evening. If it takes us past midnight, we run past midnight with our streetcar system, and that's what I would have to offer.
Okay. All right. Well, there are going to be a lot of people coming in here starting this week. I mean, if you've never been to Women's Final Four, it is the greatest basketball you've ever seen.
Yeah.
It really, really is. So,
Sure.
yes, ma'am.
I highly regret that my team is not playing this year.
Well, Maryland didn't get there.
They got eliminated last week. But to your point, it is, and it is during the day, it is probably one of the biggest events that we have downtown. The Riverwalk is packed. You know, having transportation downtown for circulating throughout the community is probably a very valuable experience. I know that I've used it in order to get to it, so if there's a consideration of actually increasing at least some of the normal frequency we would not normally have on the weekend, it might be worth it. So thank you for bringing that up.
Okay. You have your reports from the HART Board representatives, and you have your status reports. We're going to move now into public comment on general concerns. The first person coming up is Gary Cloud.
Good morning, Mr. Chair. Gary Cloy, Transit Advocate. Mr. Limmer, welcome to Tampa. You are already writing a new chapter as far as transit, and I wanted to bring up some things, not knowing this previous presentation that was going to be brought up. The county, in its infinite wisdom, reached out to Booz Allen and Hamilton a few years ago for them to do what was called a transportation solution diagram. I apologize for not being able to provide copies for everybody, but the county has put this on their website, and it's labeled under Transportation Initiatives. And it's actually by the Policy Leadership Group, and it's a governance proposal. I would say that you could use this as a guide in every legislative aid that works for the county commissioners. go through those and possibly provide those to the CEO as well as everybody else. It's very comprehensive. It specifically outlines what HART has been trying to do and waiting for a tax proposal to go through. This was some of the ideas that Bruce Allen and Hamilton had brought up in 2010, and now HART can actually use this to its advantage. That's all I have. Thank you,
sir.
Thank you.
Jeanette Torres. Good morning, Ms. Torres.
I wanted to let you know that on March 23rd, which was a couple Saturdays ago, my driver was on the phone twice. And she was speaking in a low tone, thinking that I wouldn't be able to hear her, and I know that she wasn't talking to HART, so there is no reason for her to be on the phone while driving. Also, last Thursday, there was a problem with the van. It overheated and it died. And then my driver called dispatch and they told her to try to turn it back on and take me home. Well, how are you going to tell somebody that if they got to go over the interstate and the van overheated? So she did turn it back on. And I guess they changed their mind and called her back and told her to go to the transit station. While we were trying to get there, it died again. So then I called HART Plus and while the van started up again and they kept going to the transit station. I called HART Plus and I told them what was going on. And the person was like, "Oh, we're sending you a van." "You're not sending me a van if the van is moving." So, and that's what I told him. And he says, "Well, I'm just telling you what control's telling me." But he wasn't nice about it. So I just don't think that the whole situation was safe and something needs to be done about that. I did get a call, a voicemail actually, from Sherna Wilburn, and I'm waiting for her to return my call. So I haven't heard anything since then. Also, about Yellow Cab, I appreciate that it's getting slightly better in the sense that it's getting sometimes on time and sometimes it isn't, but I don't appreciate that the cab drivers are telling us that now because they have to get there within 30 minutes, we're VIP or we have a flag on our file. I don't appreciate that. It should be like that for everybody, not just because you have a flag and supposedly I'm VIP. That's all I have to say.
Well, Ms. Torres, thank you for that information. I saw Mr. Lemon writing, taking scrupulous notes as you talk, so I'm quite sure he's going to be looking into that. Thank you very much. Is it Mary Scotch? Scotch? Mary Shock, okay.
Hey, it's not. Leave it. No, mind your business. All right, forward. Good boy. Awesome. It's also Reliable's first time at a board meeting. Reliable, sit. Good boy.
Some of us feel the same way. Don't worry about it.
Mary, sit. Good boy. Stay. I appreciate the opportunity to speak, and Mr. Limmer, will you speak so I know where to look?
Yes, ma'am, right here.
Okay, that helps a little bit, but they all come out the speakers the same way. So anyway, I appreciate your willingness to come out and meet the members of the National Federation of the Blind in the Tampa Bay area. All members that are here that could stand, would you please, Miranda, wave your cane if you're here? We got a decent group here. And we are all very concerned regarding public transportation. If you wouldn't mind, though, that day, if you would be willing to take a walk around my office with me so I can show you some issues that are concerning to me as a professional. I'm a licensed clinical social worker and I have my own business in Brandon. But I do want to address a few things. When it comes to management turnaround time, I really appreciate Greg Bracken, Sherna Wilburn, and Kenley Green. Greg, one night, I text him, and Greg, I don't give your mobile number out. I might call for them. But yeah, I text him at 9 o'clock at night because I was just told that my paratransit trip had been taken off the manifest. And that is because the customer service rep actually removed the wrong time. I had 2 no-shows for the morning and then didn't have my evening trip. One night I called, my pickup's at 9 o'clock at night. I called Sherna Wilburn to leave her a voicemail message and she picked the phone up. I said, hi, you work hours like I do. But their response time is very good, and I really do appreciate it. You know, we had an incident this morning where someone was walking, we were taking the bus in, a truck was blocking the sidewalk working on a HART Plus shelter. We asked the man to move the vehicle and he said to me, well, if you didn't have an attitude, I would have moved it, but I'm not going to move it now. I literally had to, because the way the van was parked, and I have pictures of this, there's a ditch on the right-hand side of the van, and there's less than probably 1.5 feet of shoulder to the road. So I literally had to, my husband and I had to hold on to the side of the van, pull our dogs as closely as we could to get around this vehicle. Greg's taking care of that because we let him know, and I appreciate that. But it's, I guess what my point is, and I said this to Kenley Green the other day, I said, Kenley, as many issues as I have, and I am a subscribed writer 5 days a week, I said, I cannot believe that it's just me. And so I am concerned about this survey, especially with HART Plus, because there was 2 weeks when my van came after 9 o'clock at night to pick me up, and this is after working a 12-hour day. So yeah, I'm tired and I'm not real pleasant at that time of night. But so those are some of the things that concern me when you have at least 500 riders a day on HART Plus, that your sample is less than 300. And I did not receive a call for that, and I have not been surveyed when it comes to taking the bus system. We do have some problems in Brandon. The Route 46 has issues with making the required ADA announcements, and you know, that has become an issue for me because I do ride that route as well. So I do appreciate, Mr. Limmer, that you are going to come out and meet us because we depend on this system. And we depend on it for our livelihoods, we depend on it for our freedom, and we depend on it for our recreational time as well, which the National Federation of the Blind believes that we can live the lives that we want. And the members that stood up today are very independent blind individuals who want to enjoy the system, and we appreciate and we have great hopes in you coming on. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Schott. Henry Spells. Good morning, Mr. Spells.
Going on? How you doing? All right. My name is Henry Spells. I live in the county, not the city. I live this far from the city. All right, so I just got some things to say. I want to point noted. I saw Mr. Limmer on Monday, a week ago. I see Mr. Limmer today. So, Mr. Les and the rest of the HART board, I want to know if Mr. Limmer and you, Mr. Miller and Mr. Swartz, could fix something, because Mr. Swartz, there's something going on in your area, in the city of Tampa, which basically is the cut line of Tampa and the county. A bus shelter, Metro Rapid, I don't know what number it is. It's on the north side of Fowler Avenue. North side of Fowler Avenue. Now, it's a little bit of discomfort at that bus stop. Why? Because there's a lot of homeless, I'm finna say it, but there's a lot of homeless pricks, drug dealers, crooked people, people who, all that on the bus stops. I heard there was another one down at Nebraska, but I'm more concerned about the one right there, right by McDonald's. I don't know what HART will do. Every time I see security come, they swim away, but yet they always return. They're like, they're like a little disease, a disease that you can't get rid of. So I want to know, how are you guys going to be able to get rid of that, that reoccurring disease that always come and never go?
Where are you talking about now?
Let's see. Homeless people on.
Where is it? Which
bus stop? Metro Rapid. It's right there on the north side of Fowler in Nebraska.
Chair, at that corner, they've got the McDonald's. I assume, Henry, you're talking about
yes, that's my
Fowler, correct?
That's my favorite spot. That's your area. I've seen it. Your area for the city of Tampa. Your area should be for the Hillsborough County Commission. Right. But yeah, I want to know if y'all could fix that. If HART could fix that problem, because one, I kind of feel discomfort catching the bus, especially if I'm at McDonald's, especially if I'm at McDonald's and it gets down later and later. Say like if I was to leave at say maybe 8, 9 o'clock at night, right, and still be able to get the late bus for Route 42. It's a little discomfort. A lot of drug dealers, a lot of drugs, a lot of spice and everything else, and I hate it. I just hate it.
Mr. Spells, I just talked to Mr. Limmer. One of the issues there that you talked about, we're going to probably have to get the sheriff's department involved, and that is when you have the homeless and other people there specifically dealing drugs and things along those lines. We're not the jurisdiction or have the authority to take care of that, but I just talked to Mr. Limmer, and we'll be talking to Sheriff Chronister about getting someone out there to take a look at that.
Oh, I just thought I'd bring it to y'all. I just thought I'd bring it to your attention, Mr. Miller, because this is a recurrent thing that needs to stop now.
We appreciate it. We're going to talk to the Sheriff Chronister to get that taken care of.
I love you, and Mr. Swartz, I'm gonna miss you, but I hope you don't leave the city council.
Well, I'm leaving city council.
Not retirement, is it?
It's not what?
Is it not?
It's term limited, yeah.
Oh man, shoot! I could have also won. And I'm gonna let me tell you this before I go. But even though I don't live in the city, my picks for the mayor election would have been you and Miss Castor.
Thank you very much.
Well, listen, Henry, always remember, you always said I was a better chairman than anybody else that's been up here. Didn't you say that?
I said that too. You know what? I mean, Mr. Miller got your spot,
you just lost your spot. Thank you, Mrs. Bell.
Hey, don't worry, you'll get it back.
Thank you, appreciate it. Thank you, Mr. Bell. That's the last person I have. That's is there anyone else that did not sign up to come forth? Anyone else? Okay, thank you. Is there any old business? Any new business? Commissioner Kemp, you recognize.
I just would, and I could have talked to you personally about this, but in the future, I think it'd be really good if we started getting, as part of your director's report, some of the monthly updates on our general business service, which are general routes, which is our meat and potatoes of our service, the real things. And I think while we heard forever about our budget and about the loss of transit ridership, every month I look at the reports and see our numbers are really doing well. And we have had an increase overall from last year in ridership of 4.7%. And I think in particular to note the routes where the increases are, and Nebraska was a combined route, so that's like a kind of different circumstance. But you can see things, and this is printed so small, I actually have trouble seeing it, but things like Florida Avenue is up, I think that says, I circled it, sorry, 3.9%. And West Brandon Net Park up 5.8%. You know, we have several. Hillsborough is up 13.5%, and Columbus Avenue is up 5.1%. That's just some things. So I think it would be really good for this board to kind of understand what direction we're heading in, and just a quick highlight of the routes and the health of our system.
Certainly will do. Staff and I have actually already started talking about some key performance indicators that we could report to the board. Not only the ridership trends that have been very favorable lately, but budgetary figures, on-time performance, mean distance between failures, and so on. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Any other new business coming for us? Seeing none, we're adjourned.